Hello friends, this is the Urdu Free Thinker. In this video, we will discuss some basic Islamic rituals and see how they relate to idolatry and paganism. Islam claims to be the champion of a rigid and true form of monotheism, a type of monotheism that does not allow any form of worship or adoration of objects, pictures, and idols. Muslims say that this is the reason why pictures are forbidden in Islam, and why Muhammad is not allowed to be drawn in the Islamic tradition. The Quran itself vehemently opposes the worship and adoration of idols or physical images, just like Judaism. To emphasize this point, Muslims often talk about a tale of Abraham in the Quran. In this legend, Abraham was a young boy who was staunchly opposed to idol worship, but his father actually made and sold idols. One day, this young Abraham enters the idol shop, and there he desecrates and destroys all of the idols of the gods of his people, except the largest one. Abraham then puts the weapon on the biggest idol. When the people come to the building and are horrified with the destruction and desecration of their holy objects, they inquire about the culprit and quickly turn towards Abraham as their prime suspect. Abraham was clever, and he blamed the biggest idol because the weapon was on the idol, and so he asked the people to interrogate the idol instead of him. The people said that the idols cannot speak, nor can they do anything, and that is when Abraham responded, "Do you worship besides Allah things that can neither be of any good to you nor do you harm? Fie upon you, and upon the things that you worship besides Allah. Have you no sense?" This story is actually not found anywhere in the Bible. It is part of Jewish religious literature called the Midrash, and this story of Abraham is found in the first volume called Genesis, which is an exegesis of the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis. In this vast collection, there are some polemical stories of the rabbis to illustrate the dangers of polytheism and pagan belief. These were stories concocted around 450 CE, just 100 years before the Prophet Muhammad. The anti-pagan theme is illustrated by the story of Abraham breaking the idols of his father. Abraham taunted him with want of sound sense in calling the work of another man's hand. He took a stick and broke all the images except the largest one, in the hand of which he placed the stick. Anyhow, let's go back to the Quran. This is a common theme in the Quran. The Quran believes that people that worship idols genuinely believe that these idols are actually alive. The Quran demands to abstain from idol worship by reminding its audience that idols are not alive and are incapable of doing anything themselves. But this actually comes from a deeply flawed understanding of idolatry. In many religions, idols are simply a representation of the divine. They're used to help the individuals focus their attention to the divine that is beyond the form itself. This is found in Buddhism, Hinduism, and even Christianity. Although Christians would claim that the statue of Jesus present in a church is holy, they will never claim it to be an actual manifestation of Jesus. Similarly, in Buddhist temples, the statue of Buddha is not literally considered Buddha himself. And I don't know of any Hindu that thinks that the statue of Krishna, Ganesh, or Ram are actually alive. As much as Islam claims to the contrary, it is not immune from the adoration of objects. In Islam, Muslims bow down 5 times a day to a holy building made of rock and stone, the Kaaba, which they claim to be a house of God. The Kaaba contains a sacred stone, Hajar al-Aswad, or black stone that the Muslims claim came from heaven. But it is likely a meteorite that fell from the sky more than 15 centuries ago that the ancient Arabs thought was from heaven. But unfortunately, the stone is not available for scientific inquiry. Muslims circumambulate around the Kaaba during the rituals of Hajj and Umrah. Circumambulation is an act of circling around a sacred object or idol, and we know based on Islamic traditional sources that this ritual was well in practice in Arabia even prior to Islam. Muslims actually claim that this building is special, that it has divine power, and for this they cite a chapter of the Quran called Surah al-Fil, or Chapter of the Elephants. In this chapter, there is a story that before Islam there was an evil king who invaded Mecca with an army of elephants, and God protected the Kaaba from this invasion by using his special air force, the ababil, which is a type of a small bird, a swallow. Then the ababil launched their major operation and they spread across the sky. The swallows carried out massive bombardments of tiny pebbles and unleashed hell on the force, leading to a complete destruction of the entire army, including the elephants. This was Allah's own version of scorched earth. But Muslims often fail to remember that apart from this legend, there's actually no evidence of the Kaaba having any special protection. We know that the Kaaba has been subjected to several floods, like the one in 1941, and that the birds also treat the Kaaba like they do any other building. And in fact, the Kaaba has been a victim of a massive invasion and desecration by a foreign army. This was the invasion of the Qarmatians. In the 10th century AD, the Muslim world was very divided. The Abbasid Caliphate had declined from its former might and glory and had fragmented. During these troubled times, a new leader arose, and his name was Abu Tahir al-Janabi, who was the ruler of the modern-day Bahrain. This violent episode is recorded in the book A Brief History of Saudi Arabia by James Windbrant, in which he writes, "In the year 930, the Qarmathians attacked Mecca on the first day of Hajj, riding their horses into the Haram, the holy shrine, and killing pilgrims praying and circumambulating around the Kaaba. Their victims in the city numbered some 30,000. Zamzam and other wells of Mecca were despoiled, houses plundered, and finally Abu Tahir had the black stone removed from the Kaaba, broke it, and took pieces away with him. The Qarmathians kept the stone for more than 20 years, hoping its possession would elevate their position in the Islamic world and draw pilgrims. They returned the stone in the year 951, after Abu Tahir's death." This is an article from Al Jazeera Arabic that reads, "The Qarmatians, the day they stole the black stone and occupied the holy Kaaba." This shows that this is a well-known part of history that Muslims often fail to remember. Also, Muslims throw stones on a rock that they believe represents the site where Satan tempted Abraham to disobey God. But is this not a form of adoration of stones? Is this stone really the devil? Does throwing stones really do anything apart from causing harm to innocent lives? Muslims often respond to this by saying, "Obviously we don't worship the Kaaba. We pray towards it. And obviously we don't really believe that the stone is the devil. We just use it to focus our attention and to show our devotion to Allah." But again, this is not different from any other religion that uses images. Again, you can choose to believe in Islam. That is your choice, and I respect that. But know that the Quran fundamentally failed to understand what idolatry actually means. And the use of objects for symbolic devotion in Islamic rituals is not too different from the idolatry found in other religions. Also, the Quran borrowed from Jewish tales, believing them to be historically accurate, when Jewish scholarship themselves considered them to be interpretive and imaginative polemics. And this story of Abraham, the idol destroyer, is not found in the Torah or in the Old Testament. The building that you think is Allah's house was invaded and desecrated by a small tribe from Bahrain. And know that while innocent Muslim pilgrims were being massacred and slaughtered, and the black stone was being stolen, there was no Allah that came, nor any divine air force arrived to save the day.